Hello, once again, I'm Patrick Jagir, the Cosmic Alchemist. Welcome to my May 2020 Astrological Forecast and Predictions video. So, like I do every month, I'm going to get into the month of May. I'm going to talk about the themes we're going to see in the events of the world, in the events of our own lives, and basically the lessons that we're meant to learn from them. We may or may not choose to embrace these lessons, but these are the ones that are going to be offered up to us by the cosmos, by the universe, and it's our choice whether we decide to be alchemists about it, to turn the lemons into lemonade. That's what alchemy is all about, and it's like I said in my intro video. The word cosmos is a system. So the universe is a system, the solar system is a system, and your body and mind are systems too. And alchemy is just the transformation of things. So we always have this opportunity to transmute, to transform the things in our lives that are uncomfortable, that are negative, that are unpleasant, into wisdom and experience at the very least. We can even transform them into the positive experiences too. So May is giving us plenty of lead that we can turn into gold. So, big month here. I'm kind of calling the theme for this month, the world is up for review. So you can kind of think of this as Office Space, the Mike Judge movie. Same guy that made Idiocracy and Beavis and Butthead and a few others too. But in Office Space, the Bobs come in to the software company that the main character works for. And the Bobs are consultants, and what they're doing is they're sitting down with all the employees and they're asking everyone, what is it that you do here? And they're figuring out if people's positions are useful to the company or if they're sort of redundant and unnecessary. So the Bobs are in the house this month. That's the way I see it. So, and I chose this theme because there are 4 planets retrograde all through May. So Pluto went into retrograde on April 25th, but then on May 11th, Saturn's going into retrograde for a little more than 4 months. Venus is going into retrograde on the 13th for 3 months, and then Jupiter is going into retrograde for 4 months as well. So a lot of planets moving retrograde, moving backwards from our perspective. So planets retrograde are all about taking the time to review things. It's all about looking again and really not taking things for granted and examining how that we involve ourselves in the themes that these planets are associated with, in the themes, in the things in life, in the things in the world that these planets rule over. So big month for going back to the drawing board, basically, and looking at our lives, looking at how we do things as communities and as a world, and kind of rethinking and rebuilding things. So another big feature for this month is that we have the Kalasara Yoga, which we had for most of April. And again, Kalasara Yoga it's a thing that's exclusive to Vedic astrology, which I practice. But Kalasara Yoga is when all of the visible planets are on the one side of the Rahu-Ketu axis. So Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon, are always in opposite signs. So they basically bisect the chart. They split the chart in half. So when you get all the visible planets on one side, the planets Saturn and the planets inside, including the sun and moon, you get very fated events and things can really seem out of control. But in these times when this is happening, everything that's happening was destined and it was fated. And even when these things are uncomfortable and unpleasant, it's all about helping us to evolve, helping us to ascend, to be wiser, be better, and just be more than we were before, individually and collectively. So we're going to have this Kalasara Yoga till mid-July. So it's a good, what is it? At least 3 months of having this Kalasara Yoga where these fated events are happening. And I see everything that's going on really as a turning point for the world. And people have different perspectives about what's going on right now. And a lot of this centers around the whole COVID-19 phenomena. Some people think that anybody can get it and it's the most dangerous thing we've ever encountered. Some people don't think it's as dangerous as that, and they're looking more at the government responses as a danger, as the real danger, especially when it comes to keeping the economies closed and keeping countries closed and people running out of money. Any way you see it, things are going to get better, and this is all for the best. And this is a teaching tool. This is a lesson. We're learning lessons right now, and it's like I said back when Saturn went into Capricorn, its home sign, because Saturn and Capricorn rule boundaries. And one of the big lessons I saw is that this is a lesson of people, of all of us, learning how to mind our own business. Because in the modern world, people don't really have boundaries. And, once they sort of pick their political party, they think everyone who doesn't agree with them is stupid and they should be doing things their way. Or they think that people who are not as educated are stupid and should be doing things their way. So everybody needs to learn to mind their own business. And it's interesting, I'll get into this later, but we're definitely seeing this because we're seeing this in the United States where governors are really sort of taking charge of their own states, and they're not thinking about things so much as a collective of the United States anymore. And we see the European Union breaking up, and really leaders of countries doing things for the good of their country, and they're not talking about promoting the whole agenda of basically the EU bureaucrats in Brussels, the unelected ones. So we're learning to mind our own business and to be individuals and have boundaries again. So it really is all for the best. So, another thing you're going to see in this month is there's major potential for social change, governmental change, and a lot of economic changes. And we're seeing economic changes already. And we want to get back to normal. And we don't know how we're going to get there yet. And definitely the breakdown of government that I've been talking about since Saturn came into Capricorn, that's going to keep progressing. It looks like government's getting a lot stronger right now, and it's going to have unlimited power forever, but it's the last flare of the candle to government as we've known it, and even society and economics as we've known them. So another feature this month, we have some major potential for disclosures of lies, secret agendas, on the part of government leaders, religious leaders, and corporate leaders. A lot of just scandals and shady, hidden things that were kept under the rug for a long time. We could see these flying out. Part of this is, in my opinion, and this isn't a very popular view, but I think the COVID-19 narrative is going to keep developing, because there's no way that the experts can know how this whole thing works in a matter of a few weeks. And that's basically the ruling view on the whole thing, and that's the view that the mainstream media is pushing, is that they know exactly how this works, they know how severe it is, they know who it affects, and just shut up and don't ask any questions. It's just like after 9/11, where the pro-military and the right-wing people had their big virtue signaling fest after the Bush administration said, we know exactly who did this and who planned it, and and then from there they started making all these leaps, and they're like, well, we're going to need this Patriot Act, We're going to have to invade Afghanistan, where they supposedly planned sophisticated attacks from a cave. And then, oh, by the way, Saddam Hussein has the WMDs. We need to go in there. Just all these mental leaps were being made after that, and we really didn't understand what the hell happened. So now, the right had their virtue signaling fest back in 2001 with 9/11. Now this is the left-wing friendly crisis, where the left is having a big virtue signaling fest, and they're being the thought police, just like the right were after 9/11. So we're going to learn more about where COVID came from, how it got out, and more of what's been really going on in China, and the relationships with China in the WHO, the World Health Organization. And China's really manipulating the UN in general right now. They run a Human Rights Commission. Riddle me that one, but that's the way it's going right now. And there's a lot of corporate interests that are basically playing China's game because they have so much money wrapped up in it. Look up the U.S.-China Steering Committee that Bill Gates is part of. So anyway, so I think that a lot of these disclosures could be catalyzed by the Mars entering into Aquarius with Neptune. That happens on May 5th. And, Mars is going to have its fourth aspect on Venus. And Venus is, dealing with health and caregiving and, even wealth and economics right now. And then also the ninth aspect of Rahu is going to be on Mars and Aquarius. So Rahu is, deceit. Rahu is a trickster. Rahu rules illusions. And so, when you get Mars and Neptune in Aquarius, for one, I've been talking about Neptune and Aquarius for a while. Aquarius is us, the massive people, all of us. And Neptune rules hidden agendas, secrets, illusions, delusions that we lead ourselves into. So when you get Mars in there, it brings in vitality, and it kind of spices things up, and brings some how do I put this? Sort of brings a little impulsiveness and a little action in there, and things kind of bubble over and sort of leak out. So I think we're going to see some things here. Astrology really relays potential. You can't predict exactly what's going to happen, but there's a lot of potential for this. And even if information does get out, people always don't care because they didn't get it from the news network that they like. If it comes out on another news network, they say, well, that's bullshit, I don't like them. They don't promote the right politicians, so people might not believe the information if it comes out, but there's definitely information coming out. So let's get into the charts a little bit and kind of walk through those a little. But one more thing I want to say about the retrogrades is that it's not an ideal time to start new ventures, new initiatives. It's a time again for reviewing, for sort of going back to the drawing board and rethinking things. So we'll see. So as far as the retrogrades go, as I mentioned, we've got Pluto. Pluto went retrograde April 25th. It's going to stay there till October 5th. Pluto's a god of the underworld and keeps things hidden. But then at the right times, the right conjunctions, it reveals secrets, hidden agendas. When Pluto goes retrograde, that's really where the disclosures happen. When Pluto's going direct, it hides things more, but when it goes retrograde, kind of reverses its function in some ways. So Pluto's actually going to go back to Sagittarius between now and October. And the way I see this is that we're getting a chance to basically review our worldview, because Sagittarius is all about beliefs, worldviews, philosophies, and Pluto was at 0 degrees of Capricorn for a while, so Pluto is sitting with government. So now it's going to go back, it's going to retrograde. We're going to get a chance to review and take a new look at how we see government and what it really does. And then, Saturn's going retrograde May 11th. It'll be retrograde till the 29th of September. Saturn's going to stay in Capricorn. And again, Capricorn, it's society, it's government. So we're going to have our minds on governmental change and how we want that to look. And then Venus is going retrograde in Taurus. It's going to stay in Taurus. That happens on May 11th. And it'll continue till June 25th. So this is one of the big ones in the whole month. And so Venus is retrograde. It's going to be retrograde in Taurus. Taurus is all about wealth. It's all about quality. It's it's more. It's not so much money, but more of the commodities of wealth. Things like real estate, tangible assets. Commodities. So in the economy is all about the sale of commodities. It comes down to it. Money is just the medium of exchange. So, and another thing too is, Venus is at home in Taurus. Venus deals with health, with caregiving, with creativity, wealth, pleasure, deals with relationships. So we're definitely going to be putting relationships under review, personally, and then even, our relationships within communities, the relationships countries have with each other, and then even the relationships that non-governmental entities have with each other, corporations and NGOs, and how people relate to them, how they relate to people. And since Venus has such a tight relationship with wealth, with the economy, if you go back to early April, in the mainstream, the news was talking about how, because the price of oil is tanked, it's actually, a barrel of oil has a negative value. It costs the oil companies money to deliver it. They're not really selling any, and they're kind of stockpiling it, and they're not refining it into gasoline. So mainstream media outlets for almost a month have been talking about a gas shortage that could be coming up in May or June. So, this happened. I wasn't around, but I've heard about it. It happened back in the 70s when OPEC was playing games with the United States. I think it was like 73. And there are gas shortages, and you can only go get gas on certain days, depending on whether your license plate ended with an odd or an even number. And if you do image searches for gas stations back then, gas stations would have signs up that said no gas, and the guy would just be sitting behind a counter selling magazines and cigarettes and Hershey bars, but not selling any gas. So we could be going back to that. And incidentally, the 1970s, mid-70s, early mid-70s was when the whole phenomena of compact cars came out, because it was a response to the whole gas crisis. Because not only the gas run out, was it in short supply, but the price went way up because it created a demand for it. There was basically a run on it. So the compact car was created so that you go twice as long without refilling your tank. Because before that, American cars were big. So another thing too that I see being affected here is the real estate market. You have to be honest with yourself. The real estate market's been extremely inflated for a long time. It bounced back after 2008, and then it just kept going up and up and up in the same fashion. And they started doing subprime again, but they didn't call it subprime, and it wasn't as pervasive. So kind of right back to where we were, especially when you get the Jupiter and Pluto conjunctions. There was one of those back in 2007. So in my opinion, when you look at things, when you look at the value of things, the real estate market's been very inflated, and it's getting to the point where just regular people can't buy houses. You have to have 2 6-figure incomes just to buy some tiny condo or some tiny house. So that's going to correct, and things are going to get more reasonable again. But some blood's going to run, financially speaking. So keep your eyes on that. I would not buy a new house during this time because you can really lose your shirt over it. So, and the thing about home sales too is that new home sales are one of the major economic indicators for economic health. So no houses being bought, or very few houses being bought right now. So, and once the economy gets back to a semblance of normality, all these things are going to be looked at because everyone's attention is occupied with COVID-19 and not dying from COVID-19, and everybody thinking that they're equally susceptible to COVID-19. So once our attention gets focused away from that, shifted away from that, people are going to see the realities of the economy, and there's going to be some corrections, and people are going to get scared about that. So, but we're going to get through it. It's not going to be that bad. Once Venus comes out of retrograde, I think things are going to bounce back. So, by end of June, July, things will start coming back. The thing I mentioned earlier, through all this month, the 4th aspect of Mars is on Venus. So Mars is 4 houses away looking at Venus. And this is for the entire month. Definitely strongest towards the end of the month because they're going to be at similar degrees. They'll be in different signs, but at similar degrees. So we're going to see volatility when it comes to wealth. And again, real estate market, commodities, all that stuff. And then with the Jupiter retrograde, Jupiter rules banking. Jupiter also rules, higher learning things. And it's interesting because higher learning and banking have been in bed with each other for quite some time, the last 20, 30 years, where the price of education has been a bubble. College has been a bubble that has been swelling and swelling, and it's pretty much getting ready to burst. So with this Jupiter retrograde, we're going to see some upsets, some shakeups in finance, banking, all that stuff's up for review. Belief systems are up for review too, because Jupiter rules education, higher knowledge. One thing too that I see is that Jupiter's going to retrograde into Sagittarius during its own retrograde. So we're getting a chance to, again, review our beliefs. Not everybody will do this, but some people will. And then economic and financial expansion are definitely halting. For one, Jupiter was in Capricorn. It's debilited sign, and it's going to retrograde in Capricorn, go back to Sagittarius. So not a lot of forward movement here, financially, economically. So just the way it is for now. And so those are basically the themes of the retrogrades here. So let's get into the major events of the month here. So, we start May 1st. I'll pull that chart up here on my end. One sec. So we start the month May 1st. We have, interesting thing we have is Uranus and Mercury conjunct in Aries. We've got the Sun in there too. So, one thing I see here is that Aries is the sign, it's the first sign, so it's the sign of initiative, of leadership. It's also, Aries is also ego, and ego is not a bad word. The definition of ego has really been warped by the New Age community, the spiritual community, even pop culture, but ego is yourself, and it's how you use yourself to interact with the world around you. So, you get Uranus in Aries. One thing you get is, Uranus, by the way, it's the planet of upsets. It's the game changer. It totally flips the board on you, flips the script. So, we're going to see, for one, we're going to start looking at leadership differently, because Uranus is going to bring a new view in. And Mercury is the intellect. So on May 1st, Uranus and Mercury are conjunct 12 degrees Aries. So this is something we're going to be thinking about. You know, what is it that makes someone a leader? What is it that we expect of leaders in the world? And the sun's in there too. So the sun symbolizes ego. It also symbolizes the soul. So at a deep level, we're going to be thinking about these things. Now, on another level, with Uranus and Aries, we're going to see leaders flipping the script and doing things they don't usually do. And I mentioned this already. You know, we're seeing in the United States, we're seeing governors who, instead of being part of the collective of the United States, they're really thinking about what's best for their states. And they're taking action on that. And, you know, they're getting the guidance from, you know, the president and the CDC, but they're really thinking about their own states. And this is a really good thing, in my opinion, because the United States is not supposed to be, you know, a uniform type of government like Denmark or Sweden or, you know, any of these democratic socialist paradises. We're actually 50 independent states that cooperate with each other. So the governors are getting their guidance, and they're following it, but they're also doing what they see fit. They're not doing it in uniform fashion. So, and even within, you know, these pacts that are taking place, you know, I live in Massachusetts, and there was the Tri-State Pact with New York, Connecticut, and Jersey, and then Massachusetts joined it, but Massachusetts the governor doesn't want to follow things lockstep. He's doing some things his own way. So, and you see this in the EU as well, you know, where presidents and prime ministers, for the first time in years, have been talking about sort of the national identities of their countries and doing what's right for their country, and instead of being part of the kind of the Borg hive mind of the EU, which is run by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in Belgium. So this is all for the best, where leaders are going to start reasserting themselves, and we can all do this in our own lives too, where instead of just following the hive mind, we can be our own leaders again. So, you know, this is positive. It's a subtle thing. It's not a major event, but it's kind of subtle, but I think it's really good. So then we move on. I talked about May 5th, where, you know, Neptune has been in Aquarius, Mars is coming in, and this will fuel some, I think, some disclosures of things that people in power have been lying about and secret agendas they've had. So also very promising. So then May 7th, we come to the full moon in Libra, 23 degrees of Libra. And the east coast of the United States, the maximum is 6:45 a.m. But so Libra is the sign of politics. You know, in Libra, the symbol for it, it's the woman holding the scales, you know, the merchant scales. Western astrology says scales of justice, but in the Vedic system, which is older, where mainstream astrology came from, it's the merchant scales. So it's all about weighing value and keeping things in balance. So, you know, and that's why we have in the modern world, you know, in the post sort of monarchist world, where we have republics and democracies, having parties is all about keeping things in balance, so nobody has all the power. So now, this full moon, we're going to have a direct mutual aspect with Uranus and Mercury, because Uranus and Mercury are over in Aries, the opposite sign, and the moon is in Libra, as I've said. So, you know, we're going to be seeing an upset of the status quo here, because that's what Uranus does. Uranus upsets the status quo. And again, the moon is the mind. You know, the sun represents the soul, the moon represents the mind reflects the soul, the moon reflects the sun. So, you know, Libra, as I said, is value, it's balance, politics, and but an interesting thing here is that about Libra is that Libra is inherently a little out of balance. It's always like walking a tightrope, or it's like riding a unicycle, and it's always making corrections, and it's staying balanced, but it's about to lose balance at any given instant, and it's maintaining it. So that's why the sign of Libra seeks balance, and it really emphasizes situations that are out of balance. So, and in my opinion, everybody's minds have been out of balance, especially with how extreme politics have gotten. People can't talk to each other anymore. People can't be civil if someone belongs to a different political party, or the other person likes the president, the other person doesn't like the president. So this is going to come up, and we're going to have a chance to review it and correct it, and whether or not we take advantage of that opportunity is totally up to us. And another thing too is that the 10th aspect of Saturn is going to be on the moon in this full moon. So Saturn is 10 houses away looking at the full moon. So Saturn is realness. So Saturn's going to bring some realness, shed some realness, some reality, some practicality, pragmatism onto our minds. Saturn is also represents fear, because people in general are afraid to be real. People don't like the truth. They don't like hearing the truth. If you want to be popular socially, don't tell the truth. Don't be real with people. Don't tell people what's really going on, because they get pretty angry and upset. So not a good way to make yourself popular or invited to parties. So Saturn, looking at this full moon, I think it's going to bring some reality. It's going to be a reality check to the whole political reality show. And really, it's a big fantasy, because these politicians don't actually control anything. They are sponsored by corporations that are the real government that control everything. So we're going to get some reality here. So this full moon supports what March and Uranus and Aquarius are doing. So another interesting, really cool development. So then we come to May 15th. Let me just pull that chart here. Here we go. So May 15th, Sun enters Taurus. So now the Sun, the soul, is in Taurus with Venus. And again, Taurus is all about, it's health, wealth, pleasure, caregiving, diplomacy, relationships. So an interesting thing here is that when the Sun comes into Taurus, the fourth aspect of Mars is also now going to be on the Sun, and Mars is 4 houses away in Aquarius. So when you get Mars, Saturn conjunctions or aspects, you definitely see explosive events. This is it's kind of one of the textbook things with astrology. So, and it's potential for explosive events. You can never guarantee what's going to happen, but it starts with on the personal level. So people are there's going to be more explosiveness in people's emotions. Because again, people are getting they're getting stir crazy. They're getting a little desperate with this whole lockdown situation. So it's going to start with people. People are going to be getting angry, frustrated, and then that ripples out into communities, into countries, and then the natural world responds to this, because every point in time and space is connected. Quantum physics proves this. And quantum physics is the most studied science on the face of the earth. So the natural world responds to human thoughts and emotions. So there's a lot of potential here for earthquakes, volcanism, possibly conflicts. Definitely a lot of, anger and volatility. And this often ripples out into the natural world. And this volatility, this explosiveness, we're gonna see this economically because Taurus is wealth. So you're gonna have, when the sun comes into Taurus, you've got a Venus 2 days into retrograde and reviewing wealth and, you know, burning the dead wood, throwing out the dead wood. So then you get this fire energy of Sun and Mars on Taurus. You're really going to be burning some dead economic wood, and definitely in, you know, all the various types of human relationships too. So a lot of intense emotions this month. So as far as, you know, earthquakes, volcanism, conflicts, I think this will be especially intense in areas in the eclipse paths, so the solar eclipse of December 26th, 2019, and then the places that are in the eclipse path for the coming summer solstice eclipse, so June 21st, 2020. In the eclipse paths, they overlap pretty well, and they cover East Africa, Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and, you know, China most of all. And China's been one of the foremost countries in the news for some months now, since January. So then, from, let me see here, May 14th to, now this is an interesting little kind of side note here. May 14th to June 4th, I got this from Joni Patria. I didn't notice this. I caught this in her work, so some credit to her. Mars and Rahu will be in each other's nakshatras. So nakshatras, if you haven't seen my videos before, nakshatras are the mini constellations that work behind the scenes of the 12 zodiac signs. And every zodiac sign is made of 2.5 of these nakshatras. So May 14th to June 4th, Mars will be in Shatabisha nakshatra. So that's ruled by Rahu. Rahu has just transited into Mrigasira nakshatra, that's part of Gemini, and that's ruled by Mars. So you can look at it as basically like Mars and Rahu are kind of, they're staying in Airbnbs that, you know, the other owns, or they're staying in hotels that, you know, the other one owns. So, and again, you know, Mars is in Aquarius, Shatabisha is part of Aquarius, and Rahu rules it. And then Mrigasira is part of Taurus. This is where Rahu is, and that's Mars's property. So, and on top of that, you've got the 9th aspect of Rahu on Mars during this time. So, here's some more volatility. And just also, it's going to bring in like the vitality to sort of get things done. And, you know, Mars always brings impulsiveness because it brings like an itchy feeling to build something, to do something, to get something done, to fight something, to destroy something. So, but Mrigasira, the Mrigasira nakshatra, which Mars rules, where Rahu is sitting, symbolizes the elixir of life, the elixir of immortality. It's all about searching for things. So, you know, in Shatabisha, where Mars is sitting in Aquarius, it symbolizes diseases that are difficult to cure, that are difficult to heal. So what I see here is this volatility and this vitality that Mars brings in. It basically opens the window, well, helps to not open the window, but to bring in the get up and go kind of energy to roll out some new medical technologies, and especially some treatments for this whole COVID-19 phenomena. Maybe even some treatments for other things. But, you know, we had Jupiter and Ketu in Sagittarius before all this, earlier this winter. And Ketu and Jupiter hadn't been in Sagittarius since 1889, when all kinds of major discoveries took place, when electromagnetic waves were discovered by science. The spiritual community had been talking for thousands of years about how these waves existed and are real, but you can't see them. Science finally discovered them. So that was what really opened the window, was Jupiter, Ketu, and Sagittarius. So then what's going on here with Mars and Rahu looking at each other and sitting in each other's constellations, that'll be the primer or the catalyst to really get things rolling. I'm hoping that, just like 1889, a lot of new technologies roll out that'll help with other health conditions and diseases, and really revolutionize the healthcare system and medicine in general, because medicine and healthcare have been very stagnant for a long time. In a lot of ways, as an American especially, I think we've been stuck in the early 70s for a long time. We've got some nanotechnology, but a lot of things have just really been stagnated. So some good potential here. I hope it pans out. And then next, a couple things. Actually, this is the last one. Oh, two quick things. All right, about 40 minutes here. So the next May 22nd, we have the new moon. Got a new moon. Again, new moon in Taurus. So much Taurus activity here. So new moon in Taurus. Mercury and Venus are going to be there. Actually, I want to pull up the chart for that. All right. So, new moon in Taurus. You also have the sun in there too, so you've got, the sun is always there for a new moon, so sun and moon are always at, same sign, same degree. But, so all in Taurus, you've got the moon and the sun, obviously, and then you have Venus and Mercury. So, busy Taurus the whole month, and then even into June. So, when you have, and the thing about full moons is that full moons are a great time to wipe the slate clean. They're a great time to look into yourself, see what's in there, evaluate your thought patterns, your emotional patterns, your behavior patterns, and see what's going on with yourself. And if you don't like what's going on with yourself, wipe the slate clean and build some new patterns, build some new habits, build some new mental and emotional and behavioral habits. So this is also a great time for creativity, for doing creative things. And the whole world needs creativity right now. Something that I tell people probably on a daily basis, my view, I think the world's dying of a lack of imagination. That's why we still have so many pollutants in the environment. It's almost like we refuse to find new ways to do things. And for me, I don't see the whole solar and wind revolution as a revolution, because instead of fighting about oil, people are just going to fight about rare earth minerals that all these solar panels are made out of, and the lithium that all these batteries are made out of. And we're even seeing horrible pollution now from lithium mining in Africa, in Tibet, all these countries, all these non-Western countries that have all the lithium. And the lithium, the pollution from that mining is just as bad or even worse than the pollution from the oil industry. So that whole solar hybrid car thing, that's not a revolution. Those are basically the same companies who have the oil market cornered, venturing into new territory, so they're not going to lose any money. So that's a distraction. So we need imagination in the energy sector, in medicine, in finance, in government. We keep putting patches on just old systems that are broken. So we need to get creative, use the imagination, reinvent our own lives, and then reinvent the outer world too. So the last thing I want to get into for the month of May is the Mercury Rahu conjunction in Gemini. It's going to be in the Mrigasira nakshatra. So, as I mentioned, was it the 22nd of April? The Rahu transited within Gemini from the Ardra Nakshatra to Mrigashira. So Ardra is the constellation of tragic events symbolized by the storm winds, the teardrops, just events that come out of nowhere, cause destruction. So in Rahu symbolizes, among other things, infectious diseases. So Rahu moved from that constellation of tragic events into the nakshatra of the cure. And Mrigashira is symbolized by the elixir of immortality, the elixir of life. So on May 28th, 29th, when these two planets come together in Mrigashira, I think we're going to see renewed efforts, renewed focus on the problems in the world, particularly this whole COVID-19 situation. So, and there's been some standstill, back in April there was a Saturn-Mars conjunction in Capricorn. So Capricorn's government, government has been quarterbacking this whole pandemic response. And whenever you get Mars and Saturn together, you get a battleground. So when there are battles, things get destroyed or there's a stalemate at the very least. So things don't get done. It slows down forward progress. So even though Mars is exalted in Capricorn, when it comes together with Saturn, there's some slowdown happening. So we saw some slowdown. Things got back on track. Things are getting better, but efforts were bogged down by just politicians bickering, trying to make each other look bad and grandstand for themselves. So I think this Rahu-Mercury conjunction in Mrigashira in Gemini is going to give the whole thing a shot in the ass to help it start clearing up and get handled. So that's a big positive. So that's all I've got. It's been about 45 minutes. I'm going to leave it at that. But thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to see how these events in the world affect you specifically, I can help you with that. I can do a Vedic astrology reading with you. I also do rune readings, and I have some videos on sale for download, some Qigong videos. And Qigong is a mind-body practice. Just helps you to center yourself, calm your mind. It boosts your immune system and it gets your blood flow and your energy moving in your body, gets your lymph fluid moving. Really good health practice. I also have a sale going right now. Its coupon code is Stay Healthy 50. So 50% off all readings, astrology readings and rune readings. So thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, give me a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.